Can I ask you something, Miss Evelyn? Do you know what her pain is? Because the only reason a person would behave in this manner.
We're not going to throw this behavior word around again. We're not going to do that. She does not have a behavior problem, and that's not fair.
First of all, your finger in my face is not going to work for
me. Mother, run your life.
How dare he try to tell me how to raise my kids after he have abandoned us? He has some nerve.
Y'all have lives to live yourself, and she can't run her life, her home, and your home too.
You know what? Had you been home long enough to help me to raise them, it wouldn't be such a problem. But where were you? I'm there hanging in the street, doing whatever you were big enough to do.
All day long?
Looking at Tina Knowles and her children, and looking at Evelyn Braxton and her girls, is proof to me that forgiveness or unforgiveness and bitterness can trickle down to your kids. Tina Knowles is the reason why Solange and Beyoncé are able to persevere and press through adversity with grace and poise. I know this is a weird way to put it, but Beyoncé and Solange were able to see their parents go through a healthy divorce. Even Miss Tina acknowledged that they did not go back and forth, and honestly, she had every reason to be bitter and not forgive him for having an outside baby on her. On the other hand, we can look at Miss Evelyn Braxton and see why her daughters are still at each other's necks in their 40s and 50s. That comparison tells you everything you need to know, and it's time we talk about it.
What I'm putting down. So looking at Tina Knowles and her children, and looking at Evelyn Braxton and her girl, it's proof to me that forgiveness or unforgiveness and bitterness can trickle down to your kids. I feel like Tina Knowles is the reason why Solange and Beyoncé are able to persevere and press through adversity with grace and poise. I know this is a weird way to put it, but Beyoncé and Solange was able to see their parents go through a healthy divorce. Even Miss Tina acknowledged that they did not go back and forth. And honestly, she had every reason to be bitter and not forgive him for having an outside baby on her. And then on the other hand, we can look at Miss Evelyn Braxton and see why her daughters are still on each other's neck in their 40s and 50s.
We need to talk like for real, because the internet has been coming for Tamar Braxton's neck for years now. And I'm starting to wonder, are we blaming the wrong person? I know. Hear me out before you click off this video. Every time there's drama in the Braxton family, who gets blamed? Tamar. Every single time the blogs go crazy, the comment section lights up and everybody's pointing fingers at her like she's the root of all evil. Tamar's too much. Tamar's always starting something. Tamar needs to calm down. We've heard it all. The woman can't even breathe without somebody saying she's being chaotic and attention-seeking. It's like the whole internet has decided that Tamar is the problem, and nothing she does will ever change that narrative. And honey, when she started talking about her mama, Miss Evelyn, the tea got scalding. Like, I had to pause, rewind, and take notes because this changes everything we thought we knew about the Braxton family dynamics. We're talking generational trauma, childhood wounds, and patterns that have been repeating for decades.
That she thought was right.
Pitiful lie, too.
And as long as you agree with her, she's fine. And it's the same thing with y'all. If y'all don't agree with her, she is pissed. And it's time for y'all to stop letting your mother run your life.
Now, Tamar has been very open lately about her mental health journey and her childhood experiences. And she's not just out here making excuses or playing victim. She's connecting the dots between how she was raised and how she moves today as a grown woman. She straight up said that a lot of her habits, her reactions, the way she handles conflict, that all came from watching her mother. Specifically, she's been talking about Miss Evelyn's resentment toward people, especially their daddy Michael Braxton Sr. When you really sit with that information and think about it, that makes so much sense. Like suddenly everything clicks into place. Let's be real. Tamar has shared everything with us. This woman has let cameras into every single corner of her life for years. We've seen her relationships fall apart in real time. We've watched her beef with her sisters play out on national television. We've been there for the emotional breakdowns, the temporary makeups, the messy fallouts, all of it.
Say some things out her mouth that are really cutting.
But your daughters are being held emotionally hostage to your ex-wife's bitterness towards you.
Mm-hmm.
You and her need to get on the same side of the table and free those girls. Because the elephant in the room that nobody will talk about is Evelyn Braxton's attitude.
If you've been watching Braxton Family Values from the very beginning, from season 1, you know Tamar came out the gate with that bold, dramatic, larger-than-life personality that you either loved or hated. There was no in-between, and early on, people were living for it. We were cheering her on, laughing at her reads, eating up the entertainment she was serving. She was giving us moments. But somewhere along the way, the narrative shifted. The comments went from yes, Tamar drag her to here she goes again, I can't with her, and I get it. Watching the same drama play out over and over can be exhausting. A lot of fans feel like Tamar always reacts defensively, like she can never just take accountability and admit when she's wrong. That sharpness she has in arguments, the way she can read somebody for filth in 2 seconds flat, it cuts deep, and it's pushed a lot of people away from her, including her own sisters at different points throughout the years. People keep saying she needs real help, like professional therapy and deeper support beyond just posting about being on a healing journey on Instagram. But here's what's different now. Instead of just taking the blame like she's been doing for years, instead of apologizing and shrinking herself, she's calling out the family patterns. She's pointing directly at Miss Evelyn and saying, "You want to know why I am the way I am? Let me tell you about my childhood. Let me tell you what I witnessed and absorbed growing up in that house." And honestly, each one of those sisters has their own unresolved bitterness and issues simmering under the surface. Tamar is just the only one brave enough, or messy enough, depending on how you look at it, to pull back the curtain. So let's talk about what Tamar witnessed growing up in the Braxton household. She's been opening up about watching her mother hold on to grudges and resentment like they were precious jewelry, especially after the divorce from Michael Braxton Sr. Can you imagine being a child in that house? A literal kid absorbing all that emotional pain and bitterness that Miss Evelyn was carrying around. That kind of energy doesn't just disappear into thin air. It seeps into everything. It affects how you see relationships, how you handle conflict, how you trust people. And here's something people don't talk about enough. Something that gets swept under the rug. Toni and the other sisters have their own messy behaviors too. They're just way quieter about it. They know how to keep things behind closed doors. Tamar has talked about being caught in the middle of her parents' divorce as a child. And listen, that position is traumatic. You're stuck between your mother and your father, and there's this unspoken, or sometimes very spoken, expectation to show loyalty to one parent over the other. Like, how is a child supposed to navigate that kind of pressure? Tamar stood firmly by her mother. She chose Miss Evelyn's side, and that decision created this deep, unhealthy codependency that followed her straight into adulthood and probably affects her relationships to this very day. Miss Evelyn's whole vibe, her whole energy was dominant and controlling. If you had an opinion that didn't match hers, if you questioned her or pushed back even a little bit, you got shut down real quick. So Tamar learned early, probably before she even understood what was happening, that to keep peace, to stay in her mother's good graces and avoid conflict, she had to obey. She had to stay loyal no matter what, even when it didn't feel right. Now think about how that childhood environment shaped absolutely everything about adult Tamar. How she reacts to conflict, her struggles with loyalty and trust, the way she handles disagreements and perceived disrespect. These patterns and behaviors don't just show up out of nowhere when you turn 21. They're built over years of conditioning. And Miss Evelyn's anger and need for control didn't magically stop when Tamar turned 18 and became a legal adult. Those patterns have persisted for decades. They're still playing out today. The public is finally starting to recognize and acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, Miss Evelyn is actually the root cause of a lot of this emotional chaos we've been watching play out on reality TV for years. The reactions to Tamar's story have been absolutely wild and all over the place. Some viewers are really relating to what she's saying about growing up in that kind of environment. The conversations about toxic maternal influence and generational emotional trauma are getting real in these comment sections. On Twitter, everywhere, people are sharing their own stories. But here's the question that keeps coming up. Why are the other sisters so quiet? Toni, Tawanda, Trina, rest in peace. To Traci's beautiful soul, they all grew up in the exact same house under the same roof with the same mother. So why is Tamar the only one talking about this? Is it about not wanting to confront those long-standing emotional patterns that have been there since childhood? Is it about protecting their mother's image? It's really starting to look like Tamar might have been carrying the weight of the family's issues publicly, being the lightning rod for all the criticism while everybody else stayed silent and comfortable, letting her take all the heat alone. Think about that for a second. She's out here being vulnerable, connecting her behavior to her upbringing, trying to explain herself, and she's still getting dragged through the mud while her sisters stay quiet and protected. That doesn't sit right with me. We've seen moments on the show where Miss Evelyn's controlling nature becomes painfully obvious. The way she speaks to her daughters, the way she shuts down conversations she doesn't want to have, the way she demands loyalty and agreement. There was that scene where someone pointed out that the daughters are being held emotionally hostage to Evelyn's bitterness toward their father. And that's exactly what it looks like. Evelyn's response to criticism about her parenting style has always been defensive. She's pointed fingers at their father, blamed him for not being there, accused him of abandoning the family. And sure, he probably wasn't the best husband or father, but that doesn't excuse using your children as emotional support systems or punishing them for having relationships with their dad. The internet, of course, has all kinds of theories because that's what we do. People are speculating about all kinds of behind-the-scenes family secrets and dynamics we'll never see on camera. Some folks think Miss Evelyn's control was so incredibly strong, so suffocating, that it stifled all the daughters' ability to express themselves freely and authentically. And because Tamar's naturally the most outspoken one, the one who can't hold her tongue even when maybe she should, she became the scapegoat. She's the one who gets blamed and criticized, when really they all have unresolved stuff from that household that they've never properly dealt with. Here's what we know for sure. Tamar absorbed her mother's bitterness. She watched Evelyn hold grudges for years. She saw how her mother treated their father after the divorce. She witnessed the resentment, the anger, the control. And as a child who chose to side with her mother, she internalized all of that. So when Tamar reacts defensively, when she holds grudges, when she can't let things go, when she comes in hot during family conflicts, where do you think she learned that? It wasn't from nowhere. It was modeled for her. It was normalized in her childhood home. It became her blueprint for handling emotional pain and conflict. And here's the thing that makes this even more complicated. Tamar's personality, her boldness, her inability to stay quiet, that probably made her more vulnerable to absorbing these patterns. The quieter sisters could observe and keep their distance. But Tamar? She was all in. She was loyal. She was ride or die for her mama. And that loyalty came with a cost. The codependency that formed between Tamar and Evelyn is textbook unhealthy parent-child dynamics. Tamar learned that her value, her worth, her place in the family depended on staying aligned with her mother's views and feelings. Any deviation meant conflict. Any disagreement meant being shut down or pushed away. So, as an adult, Tamar struggles with boundaries. She struggles with knowing when to walk away from conflict. She struggles with people-pleasing while also being defensive. She struggles with loyalty because loyalty was weaponized in her childhood. These aren't character flaws that appeared out of thin air, these are trauma responses. Look, at the end of the day, Tamar's highlighting patterns that a lot of us can actually relate to if we're being honest. The guilt that gets passed down, the pressure to be a certain way, the emotional expectations that get put on you as a child and follow you like a shadow into your adult life. Some fans are divided on whether to support her or criticize her, and I get both sides. Yes, Tamar is an adult now and she's responsible for her actions and her healing, but also we can acknowledge that she's been fighting an uphill battle her entire life because of how she was raised. The comparison to Tina Knowles and her daughters is perfect because it shows what healthy looks like. Tina had every reason to be bitter. Her husband cheated. He had a whole child outside their marriage. But she chose not to poison her daughters with that bitterness. She chose to co-parent healthily. She chose forgiveness not for him, but for her own peace and her children's well-being. And look at the result. Beyoncé and Solange are thriving. They have a strong sisterly bond. They support each other publicly and privately. They don't air their family drama on reality TV because there isn't constant drama to air. That's what happens when the mother heals her own trauma instead of passing it down. Meanwhile, the Braxton sisters are in their 40s and 50s still fighting like teenagers, still unable to communicate without explosions, still carrying wounds from childhood that were never addressed. And Evelyn, instead of taking accountability for her role in that dysfunction, continues to position herself as the victim and shut down any conversation that makes her uncomfortable. Tamar is finally saying enough. She's finally pointing at the root cause instead of just apologizing for being the symptom. And honestly, it's about time, because the cycle won't break until someone is brave enough or fed up enough to call it out. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Tamar's been unfairly blamed this whole time? Has she been the scapegoat while the real issues got ignored? Is Miss Evelyn really the root of all the family drama like Tamar's suggesting? And why do you think the other sisters have stayed so quiet about their childhood experiences? Are they protecting their peace or protecting their mother? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I know you have strong opinions on this, and I want to hear every single one. And if you're here for more tea on the Braxtons and other celebrity family drama and behind-the-scenes mess, make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single video. Trust me when I say there's always more to unpack with this family, and we're going to keep digging. Stay blessed, stay messy, stay informed. And remember, family trauma is real and it doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone regardless of fame or money.